Hello there and welcome to the AWS series, and in this session of our DevOps we are going to take a look onto setting up our AWS Network Load Balancer. Here is our target layout which we are going to implement as an end result of this session. So here we will be setting up an EC2 instance within our VPC which will have a subnet, internet gateway, route table and EC2 instance running within that particular subnet. We'll also set up a target group where we will be adding our EC2 instance to that target group, and after adding that we are going to set up our application load balancer as well as our network load balancer. And also I'm just going to show you like what are the differences between the application load balancer and when we are trying to access our network load balancer. So for this session we need to understand what's the basic difference lies between the NLB, which we call it as a network load balancer, as well as application load balancer. So this is our target layout which we are going to implement throughout this session, and there are two components which are important for this target layout. One is application load balancer and one is NLB, which is our network load balancer and which is our key topic for this particular session. But why I have kept ALB and NLB into this implementation is because you need to understand the basic difference between ALB and NLB and when you need to use it. But don't worry about it. We are just going to break down this whole layout into bits and pieces, and we are just going to implement each component. So on a crux level, I will say that we are going to set up an VPC. We are going to set up a subnet. Inside the subnet, we will have an internet gateway, route table, and EC2 instance. And for that EC2 instance, we will be creating a target group so that load balancers can point to this target group. So once after creating a target group, then we are going to create an application load balancer, and we are also going to create a network load balancer. So any of the load balancer will have access to that target group so that it can reach to the EC2 instance. And at the end user like us, we will be using the URLs for application load balancer, as well as we will be using a URL to access our network load balancer. So let's jump into this session and start setting up our whole networking first. Let's start with our first component, and that is our VPC within our AWS account. So this is the first VPC which we are going to create, and with the IP range 11.0.0.0. So let's get over to our AWS console and start setting up our VPC. So here you can see this is my AWS console, and go to your home page and type VPC over here, click on VPC. And here there are a couple of VPC which I have already created, but for this session we are just going to create a fresh VPC. So click on create VPC over here. And here we are going to choose the option VPC only, and here we are going to put a name for it. So I'm just going to put a demo NLB VPC. Then we need to specify the IP range. So I'm just going to put 11.0.0.0/16. And I'm just going to stick with the default setting over here. I'm not going to use IPv6, and that key and value I'm just going to keep it default. And after that, click on create VPC. And if you go to the VPC dashboard once again, and here you can see there are three VPCs. Go to the VPCs and you will be able to verify your VPC, which is this one, demo NLB VPC. Click on this VPC, and here are the details related to your VPC. After creating the VPC, the next resources which we need to create is the subnet. And the subnet we are talking about is the public subnet and the private subnet. So within the VPC, we are just gonna create two public subnet and two private subnet, and the range for the private and public subnet which you can see over here is public will have 11.0.1.0, and the another public subnet within that VPC will have 11.0.2.0. And similarly the private subnet will have we will create two private subnet, and both the private subnet will have IP ranges ending with 3.0 and 4.0. So 1.0, 2.0 for public, and 3.0 and 4.0 for our private subnet. Let's go to our AWS console once again for creating the subnet, and again click on VPC dashboard over here and click on subnets. And here are some of the default subnets which I have already created, but I'm not going to use those. I'm just going to click on create new. First of all, we need to select the VPC. So if you take a look onto the diagram over here, then these subnets lies within this particular VPC. So we need to choose the VPC which we have just created. So go back to your console and select the VPC. So our VPC is demo NLB VPC. Select that one. And here I'm just going to put the subnet name. So I'm just going to put the demo NLB public subnet 1A. 1A I am suffixing it because we need to choose the region. So differentiate that. That's why I'm using the 1A. So here you will see the availability zone, and here I'm just going to deploy it inside my Europe Central 1A. That's why I have suffixed it with 1A. And IP range, as I told you, we are just going to stick with 1.0 and 2.0 for public IP. So I'm just going to put 0.1.0/24. So 24 is just defining the IP ranges. So if I choose 16, then my IP ranges will increase. So here you can see 65,000. But since it's a demo, so I'm just going to choose 24 so that I have a 256 IPs, which are sufficient for a demo. Okay, so this is our first public subnet. And click on add one more new subnet. I'm just going to copy this name from here, paste it over here, and I'm just going to choose 1B availability zone. I'm just going to choose different availability zone so that I have maximum availability. And IP range, I can copy it from here and paste it over here also, but here I will choose 2.0. Okay, and now we have created our public subnet. So let's create private subnet here as well. So click on add new subnet and paste the name. I just need to copy the name once again from the top. So I'll copy this name and paste it over here, and instead of public, I'm just gonna make it private and put it 1A. Availability zone, I'm just going to choose 1A. I'm just going to copy the IP range from the top, and for private we have chosen to go with 3.0, and that's it. I'm just going to copy this name once again because we are just going to create a one more private subnet. So go ahead, click on add new subnet, paste that one, select it to 1B, change the availability zone to 1B. And IP range, I'm just going to copy the IP range from here, put it over here and make it 4.0. And now we are done with it. So here you can see the subnet 4 of 4. So we have created 4 subnet, 2 public subnet and 2 private subnet. And if you take a look onto the diagram, so these are the IP ranges. Since I have a very limited space on my slide, so that's why I cannot create 4 different boxes because there are more components I'm just going to fit to it. So I have just mentioned over here the IP ranges so that you know that we are working with the 2 public and 2 private subnet. Okay, so once we are done with it, just verify the details once again by going up, and it looks correct to me. And then what we are going to do, we are just going to click on create subnet. And here you can see our subnets has been created. And if you want to look a very like a filtered view, so from the drop down you can select the VPC which we have created. So just select a demo NLB VPC so that it will not be so many records popping up over here. So you will see only the resources which belongs to your VPC. So that's just a quick tip for you. Let's move ahead, and the next resource which we need to add to our networking setup is our internet gateway. And internet gateway is just a route to getting an internet access. So we need to attach to the public subnet because any resource present within the public subnet will have access to internet, as well as any resource within the public subnet should be accessible from outside of our VPC so that I can access from my local laptop. Although we need to set up our route table and other restrictions over there, but internet gateway in a crux, we need to set it up with our public subnet so that it is our resources can access the internet. Okay, so let's go back to our AWS console, and here you can see these are the subnets which we have created. Let's go back to our VPC dashboard once again, and from the left navigation we can select internet gateway. So click on this one and click on create internet gateway. And here we need to put the name. So I'm just going to put a demo NLB IGW for internet gateway abbreviation. And after that, just simply click on create internet gateway. And if you go back to internet gateway dashboard and just refresh this thing. Sorry, we need to remove the filter because internet gateway is not attached to VPC yet. So here you can see this is the demo NLB internet gateway which we have created, but this internet gateway is still an open internet gateway. We need to attach it to our VPC. So click on this internet gateway over here, and here you can see the state is detached. So if you take a look onto the diagram, so this internet gateway is present within the VPC. So we need to make this attachment happen. So I'll go over here, click on actions, click on attach to VPC, and then select the VPC, which is our demo NLB VPC. Select that one, click on attach internet gateway. And here you can see our internet gateway has been attached. Alright, so now after attaching the internet gateway to our VPC, then the next resource which we need to create is the route table. And the route table we are going to create is for our public subnet as well as for our private subnet. So these are the two route tables which we need to create. So let's get back to our AWS console over here and go back to our VPC dashboard once again. And from the left navigation menu, you can also find the option for a routes table. And from the dashboard, you can also find the route table option. So select that one. And here, if you remove the filter, then you can see the other route table, but we are not interested in those. We will create our own route tables over here. So click on create route table. So first thing we are going to create is our public route table. So I'm just going to put demo NLB public RT. RT I'm going to use for route table abbreviation. Then select the VPC. Since we are working in the VPC, so we need to select the VPC, which is our demo NLB VPC. So from the drop down, go and select demo NLB VPC. Tag, I'm just going to keep everything default and then click on create route table. And here you can see our route table has been created. I'm just going to copy this name to create our private route table as well. So click on route tables, go to create route table, then put it over here, change it to private. And the VPC, I'm just going to select demo NLB VPC and then click on create route table. And here you can see our both the route tables has been created for NLB demo, which is our public route table, and our private route table. Now let's take a look onto the diagram once again. So we only created the route table, but we have not attached this route table to our public subnet. So similarly, this private route table is also not attached with our private subnet. So we need to go back and attach or make those kind of association. So let's go back to our route table dashboard. So open the public route table over here and click on subnet association. So here click on it, and here you can see the subnet association is completely empty over here. So click on edit subnet association, and since we are working into our public subnet, so I'm just going to attach to our public and this one. So we are going to attach to our attach our public subnet to this particular public route table. Click on save association. And we have updated our route table with our public subnet association. So again, go back to our route tables and select the private route table. Go back to subnet association, click on edit subnet association, and then select private subnets over here, and then click on save association. Okay, so now our route tables has been attached, so which we can verify once again. So here you can see public route table. This is public route table, and these are our public subnets attached to it, associated with it. Similarly, if we go back onto our private, then here we can see our subnets for our private route table is our private subnets. Okay, there is one more thing we need to set for our public route table is our route to the internet gateway. So if you take a look onto this diagram, so here you can see this is the internet gateway which we have created, but we have not created any route inside this route table for this internet gateway. So that is important because we are working into public subnet and we need to attach this internet gateway to this particular route table. So go back to our route table, click on this route table, and we are going to choose public route table. So click on this one. And here you can see the routes. This is a default route for our subnet. So I'm just going to click on edit routes, click on add, and here I'm just going to choose the IP 0.0.0, which means this is our, we are allowing all the IP addresses for this particular route. And click on target route. So here I'm just going to choose internet gateway. And if you click on this one, then you will find a demo NLB internet gateway, which we have just created. So select that one and then click on save changes. And here you can see our public route table now have our internet gateway as well as our subnet association, which is our public subnet, and which you can compare from our diagram over here. So here you can see this public subnet is now ready with our internet gateway as well as our route table. Let's move ahead to the second chapter, and in this chapter we are going to set up our EC2 instance. So here you can see this is the same setup we are just carrying forward, and now we are going to set up our EC2 instance into our public subnet. So again, go back to your AWS dashboard, go to the home page, and in the search box you can type EC2, click on this EC2 over here. And here you can see no instances running, so I'm just going to click on launch instances. And here we are going to put the name of my instance. So I'm just going to put demo NLB EC2 and I'm just going to put 1. because we are gonna spin up multiple EC2 instances over here. I'm just gonna go with my Ubuntu as my default operating system for my Linux machine. And I'm just gonna stick with t2.micro, and key pair, I have already created this key pair AWS EC2 Terraform.pub, but here for the demo I'm just gonna create a new key pair so that we can SSH into that EC2 instance. So click on create new key pair, and here you can type demo NLB key. Click on create key pair, and here you can see the private key has been downloaded for you. And and the public key for this particular setup has been attached to your EC2 instance from the drop down, which you can see. Okay, we are just going to use that private key later, but for the time being, let's continue ahead with our networking setup. So here you can see this is the networking setup. Click on edit over here, and here we need to assign the correct networking because we have already done the setup for networking, and now we need to provision our EC2 instance into that networking setup. So if you take a look onto the diagrams, then EC2 instance is present into this public subnet under this VPC. So let's go ahead and from the drop down choose the correct VPC. So the VPC which we are using is demo NLB VPC. So select that one. And the subnet we are just gonna choose, let's go ahead and choose our public subnet 1A. So this is the one, demo NLB public subnet 1A. So I have chosen that one. Public IP, yes, I just want to enable it. And after that, security group, we just want 22, which is we are going to use for SSH. Then add one more security group, and here I'm just going to choose HTTP port, and I'm just going to use 80. And source type from anywhere, because this is just a demo, that's why I'm keeping it from anywhere so that anyone can access this port 80. And because why I'm enabling port 80, because we're just going to install the Apache and some pages, basic HTML pages onto that Apache machine so that we can access on a port 80. So that's the reason I'm setting up this security group. Okay, and after that we just need to go to the advanced detail, and here we need to set up some installation script into the user data section. Here you can see this is the user data. Here we will write some script which will be responsible for installing the Apache as well as some custom pages, HTML pages onto that particular Apache instance. Here is my script which will install the Apache. So I'll go to this script one by one. So this is going to update the package manager for my Ubuntu. Then it is going to install the Apache. Then it is going to set up this basic index HTML page. And after that, it is just going to restart the Apache 2. So this everything will happen when we are setting up or when we are starting up our EC2 instance. So it is all the startup time setup which is happening. And once the system is up and running, then we will be able to access our Apache homepage, which is running on a port 80. And if you don't know much about this user data section, then I have prepared a separate session on this same playlist of AWS where you will find the more details like how to work with your user data setup. So just go and check that session. Okay, so I have created this script. Just click on launch instances over here. And here you can see our instance is getting launched. So click on instances. And here you can see this is into pending state. These are some previous instances which I have been testing around, but those have been terminated. But we need to wait for this status to go running. And then we will verify our Apache homepage. And here you can see my instance is up and running. So click on this instance ID over here, copy this public address, go to the new tab and paste it over here. And here you can see this is our homepage of my Apache 2, where it is setting up the host name and IP address for that particular instance. So that concludes that my Apache has been installed successfully onto my EC2 machine. After installing the Apache, we need to set up a couple of more pages. So here you can see this is the instance IP, which we verified it, which you can see in the backend also, which is up and running. But we also need to set up custom pages. So one, I'm gonna set it foo, and one more, I'm just gonna set it bar. So that we need to set it up by going into our EC2 instances and setting up these custom pages for that particular Apache instance. We need these custom paths because we will be setting up our application load balancer, and also we will be setting up our network load balancer. So I will be able to show you the difference between how application load balancer behaves when we have a custom path and how we can set those custom rules in application load balancer. But at the same time, that is not possible with the network load balancer. So that's a one more difference which we need to check when we are setting up our application load balancer as well as network load balancer. Now let's go back to our EC2 instance, and here click on connect over here, and here you will find the instructions for connecting to your EC2 instance. So first of all, you need to have the key which we have already downloaded, which you can see demo NLB key.pam, which I have already downloaded. We need to change the permission to the 400 so that it's only read only. So I'm just going to copy this command and I'm just going to head over to my terminal, and let me open my terminal over here. So here you can see this is my terminal. I'm just gonna, yeah, here it looks good. Now I'm just gonna clear this one, and first of all I'm just gonna verify whether I have that key here or not. So here I'm just gonna type demo, and I need to put grep, and here you can see I have that particular key available into this particular directory. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy this command from here, and I'm just gonna change the permission to 400, that I have changed it, and then I'm just gonna click on SSH command over here so that I can SSH into that instance. So I'm just gonna go back and I'm just gonna paste it over here and then type yes to connect it. And here you can see I'm inside my EC2 instance. I'm just gonna clear this screen over here. And first of all, let's verify the status of our Apache. So I'm just gonna run system ctl status Apache 2, and here you can see it is up and running. Okay, let's create the directories first. So I'm just going to copy the command from my notepad and paste it over here. So first of all, we need to create the foo directory inside a var www.html, and you can find all these command into the description section, so don't need to worry about it. So I'm just going to hit enter, and the next directory which I'm just going to create is for bar. So let's hit enter, and then we can verify that those directory has been created. So run the command lslart and then type var w and html, and here you can see the directory has been created, foo and bar, and we have the default index html page which we have already verified from here. The next thing which we need to do is we need to create a index.html file. We have created the directory. Let's create the index.html file. So I'm just going to clear this one, and I'm just going to copy the command to create an index.html. So this is the first command which I'm just going to write to index.html inside the foo directory, hit enter. And then I'm just going to copy the second command to write inside my index.html of bar. So here you can see this is not right, but create index.html. So here you can see we have created both the file, and we can verify by running the ls command also and going into the foo directory. And here you can see the index.html there, and similarly if we go to the bar, then we should also see the index.html. Okay, I'm just going to clear the screen, and the next thing which we need to do, we just need to write some content inside our HTML pages inside foo as well as inside our bar. Okay, so first of all, let's open that file into edit mode. Here you can see I have put inside edit mode. Press I to go into edit mode, and then I'm just going to copy the content and I'm just going to paste it over here. So here you can see this is the message from foo inside the foo.index.html, and then I have to save and quit. Similarly, I'm just going to copy the another command for bar and paste it over here, hit enter and go to insert mode, and then copy the command from here, the text, sorry, and here you can see this is bar. So save and quit. And now our index.html has been placed inside my Apache 2 foo and bar. Now the thing is we need to restart our system. So I'm just gonna do sudo system ctl restart Apache 2, and it will restart our Apache 2. Let's verify those pages. So go back to the home page once again. So this is the default home page which you can see, which tells us the IP address, but now we have set up foo and bar. So just click on foo over here. And here you can see this is the foo HTML page which is showing up, and similarly I'm just gonna click on bar, and here you can see the bar HTML page is also set up. So now we have set up our EC2 instance which is up and running, and also you can see we only set up one EC2 instance which is into running state. So I'm just going to change it to running. So here you can see this is a one instance. So I'm just going to set up a one more instance exactly following the same step which I have just shown you. And I'm just going to set up a one more instance over here so that our load balancer can redirect those requests to the respective instances. And yeah, I'll try to come back once I have set up this whole EC2 instance and my second EC2 instance is up and running. And then we'll start to look into the target group setup and the load balancers. All right, so both the instances are up and running, and here you can see the second instance over here. I'm just going to copy the public IP address, go to the next URL tab, and here you can see this is the home page. And if I go to foo, then you will see the foo message from my Apache 2, which is running into my instance 2. Also, I have added the name so that we can identify that request is landing on a which server. So that's the additional modification which I have did. And similarly, I have modified this instance HTML page also, and I have hard coded the name. So if I go here and if I go and click on let's say foo, then it will show you the demo from EC2.1. So that we can identify where the requests are going when we will start accessing it from our load balancer or network load balancer as well as the application load balancer. All right, so instances are up and running. The next thing which we need to do is we need to set up our target groups. So let's take a look onto the diagram once again. So here you can see this is the setup we have done so far, and now we will just work onto this EC2 instance subnet. So I will just remove some of the elements from this diagram, and here I'll just shift this particular EC2 instance block to the right side so that we get a more space over here. And the next thing which we need to set up is our target group. So target group will set, so this is our EC2 instance and everything is running. So now we need to create a target group over here. And this target group is just a logical group where we will be mapping our EC2 instances. So this target group will include the instances, which is like a EC2 instance 1 and EC2 instance 2, which we have created. So let's go ahead and create this target group and map those EC2 instances inside that target group. So here is my AWS dashboard, and click on this EC2 because that's where we'll find the option to create a target group. So from the left navigation menu, just go to the load balancing section and you will find the option for a target group. Then click on here, and here we need to click on create target group. So here, and here we need to choose the instances because we have set up the EC2 instances. So I'm just going to choose with the target type as instances, and the name of the target group. So I'm just going to choose NLB demo target group. TG I'm using for abbreviation. The port, which is important over here, since we are working with the network load balancer, so we cannot use the HTTP over here. So instead we need to use TCP, which you can see over here, used with a network load balancer. If you choose HTTP or HTTPS, then you will not be able to set this target group with a network load balancer. So that's the key thing which you need to keep in mind. So click on TCP over here. And IP addresses, I'm just going to stick with IPv4. VPC, we need to change from here to demo NLB VPC. Health check, I'm just going to use HTTP. Attribute, I'm just going to keep everything default over here. Then click on next. And here you can see these are the EC2 instances which we need to include within this particular target group. So select both the instances, include, and after that click on create target group over here. So here you can see our target group has been created. So if you go and take a look onto the diagram, so if I go back, so yeah, so here you can see our target group is now including our EC2 instances. Let's move ahead, and the next step we will be creating our network load balancer. So here, if we go and take a look onto this diagram, then here we have achieved this far, like target group and this networking setup along with our EC2 instances. Now we need to set up our network load balancer, but here in the diagram you will see I have created ALB, which is application load balancer, and network load balancer. We are going to see the differences between both the two, but first let's set up the network load balancer. So let's ignore this arrow as of now and just focus on this network load balancer here. So this network load balancer should point to this target group which we have just created. So now the task is we need to set up our or create our network load balancer. So let's go back to our AWS dashboard over here and go to EC2 dashboard. From the left navigation menu, click on the load balancer over here. Click on create load balancer, and here you will find the option for application load balancer and network load balancer. And I have already covered the application load balancer in previous sessions, so just go and check those sessions if you are interested in application load balancer. But let's just go and create our network load balancer first. So click on create over here, And in the load balancer name, just type the name, whatever you feel comfortable. So I'm just going to put demo network load balancer. Okay, scheme is internet facing, IP address 5 is IP4, and the VPC. So I'm just going to choose demo NLB VPC, and then I just need to choose the availability zone. So I'm just going to choose 1A, and here I'm just going to choose the public subnet, and also the 1B, and here I'm also going to choose the public subnet. Okay, so these are the minimum requirement which you need to fulfill. And then security group, so I'm just going to stick with default, but later if we need it, we are just going to modify the security groups for this particular load balancer. All right, so here this is important, the listeners and routing. So now we have created our target group, and now we need to map. So if you take a look onto the diagram, so I'm talking about this arrow, sorry, not this one, but if I'm just talking about this NLB and this EC2 instance. So this NLB is pointing to this target group. So if you go and select from the drop down, then you will find the NLB demo target group, which we have just created. So select this one. And if you go down, then AWS Global Accelerator, we are just not going to include that one because we are just doing it for demo. And here you can see the details like basic configuration, security group, network mapping, VPC, subnets, and this our target group and listeners. So everything is ready, and then just go ahead and create a load balancer. And here we have just created our network load balancer. And click on load balancer over here and close this one, and it is into provisioning state. So it will take a couple of minutes to provision this particular load balancer. I would like to take a pause over here. So if you are liking this kind of a session, and if you want more of this kind of a session, then I would highly encourage to subscribe to this channel, because I see into my YouTube analytics that you guys are watching this video, but you don't consider subscribing it. So it will be a really boost for me if you consider subscribing to this channel, because that really helped me to and keep me motivated to prepare this kind of a session. And also, if you are interested into more premium content and you want to be a part of my community, then please consider joining my YouTube community, where I will be with you on a Discord group, and where you can just chat with me and send your messages. And also there are some private sessions which are there for my community members, which are not available here onto my YouTube channel. So consider subscribing to those also. Let's continue with our session. All right, so now my network load balancer is up and running. Here you can see which is into active state now. So click on this network load balancer over here, and here copy this DNS name, go to new tab and paste it over here. And as you can see, it is not accessible because I am doubting that there is a security group for port 80 which we need to enable. So again, go back to network load balancer, go to the security setting, and check the security group, which is this one. Click on the security group and go to edit inbound rule, and here you can see there is no incoming rule allowed for port 80. So click on add rule, go to HTTP over here and set the port 80 and select 000 so that anyone can access this particular URL of our network load balancer. Okay, then click on save, and now our rule has been added. So if I go to the tab, and here you can see it is accessible now. If I zoom it over here, so it is now pointing me to my instance homepage. Okay, so if I go and put a foo over here, then it should point me. Here you can see this is our foo from demo EC2, and if I go with bar, then it should also show me the EC2 instance, although it is redirecting me only to the EC2 instance. But in a nutshell, my network load balancer is up and running, and now we are able to navigate, or we are able to access our EC2 instances. All right, so now till now we have set up our network load balancer, and we are able to access our EC2 instances and foo and bar URL. But the key difference, which I have been telling since from the beginning of this particular session, is like we cannot set up some specific URL based rule with our network load balancer. So what does it mean? So for that, we need to set up our application load balancer. So now we are going to set up our application load balancer, and then you will see the difference between the network load balancer and application load balancer. Okay, so the next chapter which we are going to cover is our setting up our application load balancer. But before we jump to our AWS console, let's take a look onto the concepts and the differences. Okay, so till now we have covered this URL where we are able to access our NLB URL, which is our network load balancer URL. So if I go into this tab, so this is our URL, which is for network load balancer. And if I change this URL, then it is redirecting me to the respective page. But if you take a look onto this network load balancer once again, then I'll close this one. So click on this network load balancer and then go to our listeners. This is the section. Click on add listeners. So here you will not find any rules which you can define for your URL pattern. So what does it mean by the URL pattern? So for that, let's take a look onto the diagram. So here in the application load balancer, there are some URL patterns. Like if URL ends with foo and URL ends with bar, then it should put some rules over here and then it should redirect to the respective target group. So that it's properly working for URL patterns. But in the network load balancer, it is not possible. It will only give you one URL and that URL will redirect to the EC2 instances. So although we have set up the foo and bar HTML pages, but I need more granularity and I can set up this rule from the URL itself into load balancer. So it can direct that request to the target group. So that's the difference or the feasibility we have in our application load balancer, where we can put some rule patterns on the URL parameters which are coming in our request. So here, if it comes into as a foo, then we'll forward that request to the foo target group. If it is coming with a bar, then we'll target that request to our bar target group. So that's only possible with our application load balancer, and it is not possible with our network load balancer. So now let's try to set up our application load balancer. Okay, so I'll go back to my AWS dashboard once again. So here, go to the home page, and before that we need to modify a few things onto our EC2 instances, which I'm just going to show to you. So I'll open a notepad over here. So I'll just give me a second, and I think this is good. So here, this is my notepad over here. So right now we have EC2 one instance and EC2 two instance, and both the instances have foo as well as bar folder with their respective index.html page. And here also the same pattern is there because we are having foo and bar HTML page. Okay, but now what we need to do is to define the URL pattern filter. I'll just go to EC2 and I will make it only foo, and here I will only create a foo folder, and inside that folder I'm just gonna create a index.html. So this EC2 instance will be our foo instance, and same I'll just do with the EC2 where I'll just create it as a bar instance. So here I'm just gonna do EC2, I'll just put bar, and here I'm just gonna create a bar folder, and here I'm just gonna put an index.html. So that's the difference I'm just gonna create between these two EC2 instances. And then we are gonna create a target group for this instance. This is a one target group for this instance, which is like a target, let's say foo. So this is going to be a target group for foo instances, and this is going to be a one more target group for bar instances. So I'll just put target, and then I'll put a group, and then it should be bar. So now we will create two target group, and then finally we are just gonna create an application load balancer. And application load balancer, we are just gonna define rules, and in that rules we are just gonna define if it's coming with the foo URL, then just use the foo target group. And if it is coming with, I'm just gonna copy the same thing, and if it is coming with a rule like a bar, then just point to the bar target group. Okay, and this will ultimately lead you to the EC2 1 over here, and it will lead you to the EC2 2 over here. So this is the next thing which we are going to implement, but this whole thing is not possible with our network load balancer. So that's the key difference which you need to keep in mind. Okay, but there are other differences also, but this is just a one prominent one which is easy to understand the differences between these two load balancer. Okay, so let's go back to our dashboard and start modifying those index.html pages. All right, so this is my home page of my AWS. So I'll go to EC2 over here, and I'll go to instances. I'll first rename this one. So I'll just put it like a foo. And sorry, I didn't put foo over here. And here I'm just gonna put bar. Okay, so I just renamed it. So let's go to the foo over here and copy this public IP address. I'm just gonna open my terminal over here. I'll clear it. I'll exit it first of all, clear it, and then just use the IP address to SSH into. And now I'm into my foo instance. I'll just clear it, and then I need to go to the directory var www.html and then enter ls, and let's check again. So I am into, let me check, verify once again. So I'm into the foo instance right now, 373.11.1.105. So I am into foo instance, just to reconfirm. And okay, so what we need to do, we just need to remove the bar instance. So I'm just gonna run the command rf, and I'm just gonna remove bar. Okay, so I have removed this one. Then I need to restart my Apache systemctl and restart Apache 2. And now I have restarted my system. So let's verify from my public IP that I'm not able to access the bar page. So just hit enter. So yeah, this is accessible. I'm just gonna refresh it, and then I'm just gonna check with foo. Yeah, it is accessible. Demo to EC2. Let's check with bar, and now it should not be accessible. So it is not found. Okay, so now we have fixed our EC2 instance, which is our only foo instance now. Okay, and I'll exit it from here. Then again go back to the another instance, which is our bar instance. Click on it, copy the public IP address, go to terminal, clear the screen, and this is the SSH command. So I'm just going to change it to the IP address, clear it, and let's go to the directory. So change it to the var www.html, and here I'm just gonna delete the foo folder. So I'm just gonna use sudo rmrf, and then here I'm just gonna delete foo. Okay, and after that I just need to restart. So I'm just gonna run sudo systemctl restart Apache 2. Okay, so now I have restarted it. Let's verify it. Go to the public IP and go over here, close this one, open it again. And here you can see I am onto the home page. Let's access the bar first of all. And here it is accessible on the EC2, but the foo should not be accessible over here. And here you can see the foo is gone. So now we have set up our EC2 instances. One is foo instance, one is bar instance. And now we need to create a target group for these two instances. Let's go back to our AWS dashboard once again. On the left navigation menu in the load balancer, create a target groups over here. This is the previous target group. I'm just going to create a new target group for EC2 instances. The name, I'm just going to keep it like a foo target group, ALB for application load balancer. Port HTTP, that's okay. And the VPC, I'm just going to choose demo NLB. Health check, I'm just going to keep it default. Click on next. And from here, I'm just going to select the foo. This is the foo instance, and then include it as a parameter below. And then click on create target group. Okay, so this first one is created. Let's go back to one more. I'm just going to copy the name just so that I just don't need to write it again. So again, I'm just going to create it for instances. And here I'm just going to put bar and port HTTP. That's fine. IP4, VPC, I'm just going to choose demo NLB. And after that, just click on next. And here I'm just going to include our, let me check, go previous, which one we are creating. So we are creating a bar target group. So we need to include bar instance. So click next over here, click on bar instance, include as pending below, click on create target group. Okay, so let's verify the target group. So here you can see we have a foo and bar target group created. And now we need to create our application load balancer. So here from the left navigation menu, click onto the load balancer over here, close this section and just click on create load balancer, and then select now application load balancer, click on create and the name. So let's choose ALB foo bar LB load balancer. or maybe I can keep it foo and bar load balancer. I think that would be good. Foo bar load balancer, internet facing IP4, that's okay. VPC, I'm just gonna choose demo NLB VPC. And availability zone, I'm just gonna choose public, and here also I'm just gonna choose public, that's okay. Security group, I'm just gonna keep it default, we'll modify it later. And target group, so here we need to choose the target group. So first of all, let's choose any target group at the moment, because we will be setting up this listener rules later also, because this setup will only create a load balancer. Or maybe let's go ahead and try to create without a target group, because we need to set up those foo and bar URL based rule. That's why I'm saying, okay, so everything is done over here. Then click on create load balancer. Oh, it's not allowing me, so just select one. So let's go with the bar and then go ahead and create a load balancer. Just select randomly the target group for this particular setup. Okay, so I'll just wait for a minute so that this particular foo bar load balancer is up and running, and then we'll start setting up those custom rules. All right, so now my load balancer is up and running. So click on this foo bar load balancer, and here into the listeners and rules section, then we need to modify this particular listener rule. So click on this one, and here click on add rule over here. So first of all, let's put the first rule for foo, and then click on foo rule, and then click on next, click on conditions, then click on condition, select path, because we need to specify a path. So I'm just going to choose foo. If URL ends up with the foo, then it will redirect it to the foo instances target group. Click on confirm, go next. Target group, so where we need to forward, so I just need to forward it to the foo. And wait one, that's okay. Click on HTTP, select HTTP, that's also fine. Then click on next. Priority, I'm just gonna put it to 1 over here, and after that then click on next, and then click on create. Okay, so the foo rule has been created. Let's go back to foo bar load balancer, then go to listeners over here, and here you can see the foo rule. Then click on add one more rule over here. Then click on bar, then bar rule would be nice. Click on next, add condition, then click on path, put bar over here, click on confirm, click next. Target group, I'm just going to select with the bar, then click on next. Priority 2. It's just a random thing, you just need to assign the priority over here, but try to assign the priority which is like high, low, low, and low. So here I'm just gonna assign 1, 2, and there is a default rule. If nothing, then it will just forward it to the home page. Okay, click on next, and then click on create over here. And now both the rules has been created for us. Okay, so now we need to verify these rules. So go to load balancers over here, then click on this DNS name and go to the URL bar and type bar over here and hit enter. And here you can see we are getting redirected to our demo NLB EC2 instance. So that's quite evident that now we have a 2 target group, and once we are accessing our load balancer and that has a URL ending with a bar, then it will redirect us to the demo NLB EC2 instance, which is our bar instance. And similarly, when the URL is ending with the foo, then it will redirect me to the EC2 instance, which is my foo instance. So with that, I have shown you like how to set up your application load balancer, how to set up your network load balancer, how to set up your rules for foo and bar, which is possible only with the application load balancer, and how to use your network load balancer. But I haven't talked about like what are the advantages of our application load balancer and our network load balancer. So these are some few arrows which I forgot to show it to you. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the advantages and disadvantages and how these works internally. So application load balancer work on the layer 7, and our network load balancer works on our transport layer, which is layer number 4. So in the layer number 7, we are having the protocol which are supported like a WWW, HTTP and HTTPS. But for transport layer 4, we only support TCP, UDP. That's why we were not able to set up those HTTP custom rule like a foo and bar rules which we have set up for application load balancer. So that's the main reason why application load balancer supports HTTP URL pattern but not network load balancer. So yeah, these are the few points which you can see onto the screen which we have just covered, and also these are the URL pattern which we have also seen. Apart from that, what are the other key differences? So application load balancer, path-based routing, TLS support, and also you can configure your WAF like web application firewall, which is available into AWS with your application load balancer. So with the help of application load balancer, you can achieve these tasks. But in the network load balancer, what you can do is it's like ultra low latency load balancer. So if you have an application where millions of requests are landing onto those particular application, then I would recommend you to use the network load balancer because it has a high throughput time. But also remember that you need to, in some of the cases, you need to specify the static IP for your network load balancer so that you can point to that network load balancer as well. So these are the few differences which I would like to mention along with the current session which we have just performed. So I hope with that your application load balancer as well as network load balancer concepts are a bit clear. And if you have any question, then please put down into the comment section. See you into the next session of our DevOps and AWS. Till then, take care and bye bye.